What's up? How are you? MC Cham, how are you? Anyway, I'm just trying to see where to start because I'm disturbed. Disturbed by a proposed document that I happened to get hold of, and it scared the living daylight out of me for the simple fact that as Gambians, we fought a long way to get to where we are. And we all need to understand that democracy is a messy dispensation. And what we have, as bad as it is, it's better than where we left off. But equally, we need to jealously guard what we have today. As bad as it is, once again, we need to jealously guard it. So, having seen a clause in the new proposed criminal code that's trying to criminalize people for self-expression, I think democracy, as we all know, comes with rights, and these rights equally come with responsibilities. And I think we all know that, and that's not a problem for a lot of people. And we have laws in the books, as is, that will protect the rights that we have and will also give other people rights to make sure that we don't abuse these rights. Having stated that, I want to ask whoever drafted this clause about insulting. See, a law must be equitable in its dispensation. A law must be equitable in its execution. Now you have protected public officials. These are permanent secretaries, directors, elected officials, you name it. They're all protected based on the draft that is circulating. What about Halifa Saleh today, the Secretary General or whatever, the flag bearer for DOI? What if his mother is insulted or he is insulted? Where is the protection he deserves? People like Halifa Saleh, people like Lawyer Dabo, people like Mai Fati are not protected under this draft proposal or this draft law because it's talking about public officials, and these people are not public officials, but they're in the limelight. So I see no logic in this arrangement, and it doesn't make sense. But I want Mr. Ba Tambaidu and whoever is working on this document to understand that one thing needs to happen. There is a fundamental saying that those who live under the tree may not mind the leaves. If you choose to be in public life, it comes with some nuisance, it comes with some noise, and equally it comes with things that are not pleasant. And you have to deal with them. If you don't want to deal with them, it's just like heat. Don't get into the kitchen. Having said that, once again, I am baffled that the government, with all the things we have, the plethora of things that we have to deal with and we have to address as a nation, they find such a minute thing to make an issue out of. Oh no, this is going to be a dead on arrival, and any parliamentarian who want to support this proposition, you might as well count your political future as a dead on arrival because people are going to vote you out of office. So let them draft what they want to draft. It's up to us, we the people, not to accept. Yesterday, the president went to Banjul to do a spot visit. Kudos, great job. Banjul needs a facelift, we all know that. Banjul needs to be resurrected, we all know that. But the way in which and the manner in which that has to be done has to be in conformity with best practice and also our procurement rules and regulations of our country. People are not happy at the manner in which that particular contract has been awarded. We're still talking and it's not over with. 99% of the roads in Banjul are local municipal roads, meaning they all fall under the responsibility of the Banjul City Council. So it baffles me to see that the central government will come up with a project to fix the roads of Banjul, and the mayor or mayoress of Banjul is not involved in this process. Public policy is very simple. You have what you call stakeholder mapping. Whenever you're doing a project, you need to identify who the stakeholders are. If you do a stakeholder mapping, you know who your stakeholders are. Once they're identified, they need to be in the decision matrices, they need to be on the drawing board, and they need to be part of the team who design, build, implement, and maintain this public infrastructure. So you cannot wait, and now I'm talking about the central government and the Minister of Transport to be precise. You cannot wait until the project is finished and you just walk and hand over a project to the city of Banjul. That is not acceptable, that is wrong, and must not be condoned by any well-meaning, well-intended Gambian. I am not a big fan of the mayor of Banjul, and no disrespect to her. It's my personal prerogative not to be a fan of hers. But I stand with her to make sure that what is hers, she is Caesar, so give Caesar what's due to Caesar. She is the custodian of the municipality or the local area we call Banjul. So therefore, any work that's going to happen there and will revert back to her, she needs to be a stakeholder. So I cannot understand why on earth the Ministry of Transport will try and fix roads for someone and not invite them. It's like someone coming to my house, try to tidy up my house without involving me in the process. I think that's wrong. But to make matters worse, we need to do away with personal issues. We or they may have a personal issue with the mayor or mayoress. That's on a one-to-one basis. But what we own collectively as the people and the Commonwealth is the greater good. In as much as we don't agree with the project and we are in disagreement with the project, we will pay the contractor. And since we are going to pay the contractor, everyone who has a stake in it must have a say in it and must be represented in it. It's not too late, but I think the mayor of Banjul needs to be given her rightful position in this work that's happening in Banjul. She is not a dead weight, she is not an excess baggage, and she is not a nuisance. She is a necessary evil for the contractor, the Minister of Transport, the Minister of Local Government, and by extension, the executive. So therefore, give Caesar what's due to Caesar, and give the mayor of Banjul what's due to the mayor of Banjul. You disrespect the mayor of Banjul, you disrespect me, and any other well-intended citizen of Banjul, because she is our elected representative. She is working for us, and if you disregard her, you in effect are disregarding the people of Banjul. But then again, this is the ignorance of the people. Generally, I'm talking about Gambia as a whole. This is our ignorance. I saw a lot of people from Banjul clapping, shouting, running after the delegation that was out doing a spot check. And unfortunately, the main person who is responsible for that very city or her office were nowhere to be seen. What an insult. Abomination. And that is bad. And that's a practice that we should not condone. And whenever we see something wrong, we should rise up to the occasion and say this is wrong. Mr. President, I don't know who advised you, but next time when you're going out on a spot visit in the city, whether it has to do with this project or otherwise, please, it will be prudent to invite the mayor of Banjul. Mr. Transport Minister, with all due respect, I have seen the exchange you had with Rohi Low at the port. That should not stop you from collaborating with her. You guys are holding public office. And when you hold public office, you will see things you don't like, you will hear things you don't like. And like I said, those who live under the tree may not mind the leaves. It comes with public life. Even us, who are not elected officials, but we opt to be out there in the public saying things, we got insulted, or we do get insulted on a daily basis. But it's a choice that we make. The next citizen who is keeping his mouth shut, no one makes them an issue. So equally, when the mayoress of Banjul made the transport minister an issue by ambushing her on video, I'm sorry, it comes with the line of work. But next time the transport minister is out, he should call the mayor or invite them. That's a must. The project has a beneficiary. The beneficiary is Banjul. Banjul is administered by a mayor, for crying out loud. That mayor must be accorded the respect, the dignity that you will accord any public official to be present when the head of state is talking about the very city she controls. And I think politics is playing a big part in this. Let's not politicize our public administration. The president may not see eye to eye with the mayor based on their political affiliation, but on the work of the city, the president must see eye to eye with her, because it's part of nation building. And when we are building a nation, we are apolitical. Right now, the president must be able to sit down with an APRC member of parliament if it is in the interest of the greater good of society. The president must be able to sit with members of parliament from UDP if it's in the interest of society. Should be able to sit with the mayor of KMC if it's in the interest of society. Because Gambians collectively elected you not to be a mayor, not to be a president of a segment of society, but Gambians as a whole, people who voted for you and people who didn't vote for you. That's why you are called President of the Republic. The Republic is owned by sovereign people who have a choice to vote for you or not vote for you. But even though when they don't vote for you, you should be their representative. You should be the one looking for their interests. And therefore, whenever you want to go out in a jurisdiction, particularly a municipality, the mayor or a member of her office must be part of your entourage, because that is their jurisdiction, Mr. President. That is their jurisdiction, Mr. Transport Minister. But I think the problem in this country are not these people, the ministers and the president, but I call it the king's men and women. These people are your problem. You have decided, you, the president, for example, have decided to insulate yourself with people who see you as a commodity, and they always try to commoditize you, meaning trying to make money out of you as a commodity. And in so doing, they don't want to anger you. In so doing, they don't want to piss you off. All they want to do is to make sure what you think is what they will do. But sometimes what you think is not your best interest. And whoever managed this whole process should not have waited for the president to ask whether the mayor's office was contacted. I heard the mayor is not in town, but the mayor is not the office, the person. Rohi Malik Low is not the office. She is an individual. So it's the office of the mayor who should have been invited as the primary stakeholder of Banjul, who are the direct beneficiaries of this road sewage, and whatever we are doing in Banjul to be present in such an arrangement. I am baffled by the direction that we, the people of this country, are taking. We have worked too hard to get to where we are, and it looks like our newfound freedom is slipping away slowly in our hands, thanks to our inaction, thanks to our complacency, thanks to our sycophancy, and thanks to our opportunistic tendencies as Gambians. The sum total of all of us is greater than any one politician, any one party, or any one individual. The interest of the greater good of Gambians supersedes the interests of any individual, group, party, or faction. Therefore, when it comes to Gambia, let's put Gambia first. I will state it unequivocally without hesitation that me, Nyang, I have nothing against the mayor, but I am not a big fan of her. But wherever I see wrong, it's not about her, it's the office. I don't want anybody, the president included, to have an affront on the office of the mayor, whether it's KMC, Banjul, or any other municipality. Wrong is wrong is wrong. No one goes to someone's house without their consent. No one goes to someone's house without them being notified, and what happened is wrong, must not be condoned, is not acceptable, and must change. Back to the issue of insults. This country of ours have quite a lot of issues that needs fixing. This country of ours have quite a lot of issues that are wrong and need to be worked on. This country of ours have a water shortage problem. We have an electricity problem. We have a health problem. We have an education problem. We have a food problem. We have a criminal problem or crime problem. All of these things are more important than cherry picking on issues and want to worry about them. A public official is public property. That's in the world, when someone wants to run for office, their lives and livelihood goes into the public domain, to the point we know about their taxes, we know about their income, we know about their properties, we know about their extramarital affairs, we know about them A to Z, and they choose to. Morality is something that governments don't legislate. And we cannot, as a government, try to legislate the morality of Gambians to the point that the Justice Ministry is trying to tell Gambians how to live. Gambia as a society is socially derelict and socially decadent. Ñàkk jom, tapale, fen has become a norm, and the laws of the land are not going to change that. It's the schools, the mosque, the churches, the homes that are going to change that. Insults cannot be regulated by law. Decency can only be regulated by good societal norms, and it's the norms and values of a society, of particularly our Gambian society, that has fallen sick. And it has fallen sick because of the decadence we've gone through over 2.5 decades. So if we want to change that, it's not the laws that are going to change it, but the social construct of our society. What makes up the Gambian? Our home, our school, our church, our mosque, our community. This is what's going to stop the insults and the barrage of insults coming our way, not only to public officials, but generally across the board. If you are someone who is frequent on Gambian social media, the first thing you realize as a Gambian is the fact that Gambians cannot hold a discussion without getting personal. What does that mean? The average Gambian cannot hold his or her fort when he's having a discussion, a debate. Instead of issues, they attacked the person, which is wrong, but unfortunately, they lack substance to debate. But inasmuch as they lack substance to debate, we cannot legislate this by law. We have to try and change it by changing the Gambian mindset, by changing the Gambian psyche, by rebuilding a new Gambian. The only way we can rebuild a new Gambian is to start with our schools, our homes, our mosque, our church, our community. These institutions are all sick because they are a product of our environment. Our church is a product of our environment. Our mosque is a product of our environment. Our schools are our products of our environment. Our communities are a product of our environment. Therefore, the beginning of the change of this country is the beginning of the change of the Gambian, one by one by one. We need good references, societal references, i.e. good imams, good pastors, good teachers, good politicians of good standing. And when I say good standing, character. Because these are the people who inspire the young. These are the people that people emulate. These are the people who mold people, the imams, pastors, teachers, and community leaders. These are the people who make the young people who they are. So today, the youth of the country are a consequential effect of the very leaders that led them. When a Yaya Jammeh can stand on our TV, say, Kufi Juli Musena Duma Kodef Nangam, well, that product is the end result of the youths today who are insulting everyone on Facebook, including Mr. President. So therefore, Mr. President, you want to change that? Start it with you. How? Show us better examples. And the first faux pas that I will highlight was your speech at Brikama about you staying in power. It's your right to stay in power. No one will contest that you don't have a right to be in power until the mandate that was given to you legally by the people expires, or voluntarily you choose to step down based on your moral inclination. There are two sides to it. There's a moral side and the legal side. If you want to invoke your moral side, you will say, okay, this is what I agreed with my counterparts, I'm out. End of story. If you want to be legal, you can say, our constitution as it is guarantees me 5 years, I will take it, no problem. That's your prerogative. I don't have an issue. But the body language and the utterances made on that fateful day in Brikama, I'm here to stay for 5 years. No. That's a bad example because you are infuriating people who otherwise might have been supporting you. So therefore, I think we need to, as leaders, whether political, social, economic, administrative, whatever, Gambian leaders need to show better examples. The reason why there is so much decadence in this country because we had decadent leaders for far too long. And the decadent leaders were not only in the political space, but in the religious space, especially in our Islamic space. The problem of this country are not only the politicians, but our imams. For far too long, they have compromised themselves. They were no longer seeing God, but they were having demigods who became deities in their eyes. And they stopped being the shepherd of the flock called Gambians. So, law cannot change insults. It's morality that's going to change insult. And that morality is something that needs to be retaught to the Gambian. The Gambian needs to be reconstructed. The Gambian needs to be refixed. The Gambian needs to be rebuilt. And the rebuilding of the Gambian must be anchored on good moral standing. This moral standing is uprightness, consciousness, conscientiousness, ethics, and good morality. This is what we need as people to be great citizens of this country. The Gambia, I always tell people, we are at a crossroads. And the crossroad we find ourselves is not pleasant. Not pleasant in the sense that we've gone too far. 23, 24 odd years of brutal dictatorship is not one day. So the Gambian has suffered enough. But now we need leadership that will bring the people together. Last week, I spoke about the president having to come out and have a dialogue with the people. And when I say dialogue, I'm not talking about a political dialogue. I'm talking about a national dialogue. People who support him, people who don't support him, we, the people of the Gambia. The Gambian currently is in a dilemma. The Gambian currently is in a stalemate whereby the Wolofs will say, Ndam demut, Ndam dikut. Gambia has been held hostage by the political class once again. The reason why I say that the political class has held this country hostage, we don't know where we are heading as a nation. The uncertainty that's looming over our heads is worrisome. And the cost to this economy is astronomical. Therefore, the president is duty bound to come out and talk to Gambians as a whole, irrespective of the political divide. Even Yahya Jammeh must be spoken to if it's going to change this country. So national cohesiveness is something that the Gambia is in dire need today. National cohesiveness. The entity called Gambia is very defragmented today, and it needs political leadership that can cement us once again. Like our national anthem said, for the Gambia, our homeland, we pledge a firm allegiance. We pledge a firm allegiance for our diverse people. Our diversity must become our strength, and this strength can only be exhibited if the leadership look at everyone as the flock, and the leader being the shepherd. Moom mooy gétte xar bi or gétti nag bi mooy suñ sàmma. Therefore, the shepherd being the president must really come out and galvanize the resolve of the Gambian to think as Gambians. We can have diverse political opinions, but at the national level, Gambians need to be nationalistic. And that's the role and job of the president, to cement the social cohesiveness of this society. We need it. And when I heard the former vice president, my auntie, Madam Fatmata Tambajang, saying that the extension of the president's mandate is to cement the social cohesiveness of this country. Well, I don't know where the president is going to start the work of cementing our social cohesiveness. Mr. President, call on a national dialogue, open the Independence Stadium, take center stage, call all stakeholders of this going concern, call the Gambia, political, social, religious. And when I say religious, I'm not talking about those fanatics who are running after you like they ran after Jammeh. I'm talking about God-fearing religious leaders, not these men on white haftans and bubus walking around our streets. Oh no, not those people. Real God-fearing people like the imam that's at the TRRC. That type of imam. Not these type of imams that we see gallivanting around when you're out talking. We have lost the moral respect for those people because they don't respect the will, wish, and aspiration of the people, and they're indifferent to the teachings of God. Hence, their reason following people and not following God. So therefore, if you're calling a national dialogue, get vested stakeholders who are going to come, talk to you in the interest of moving our nation forward. Mr. President, you are one of the most liked Gambians. One of the most liked Gambians. Right after December 1st, we loved you. And we didn't know you. Look, it was not about you. It was about our newfound freedom, the breath of fresh air the average Gambian was breathing. And it's that momentum you should have seized and try and cement us as man's brotherhood as ascribed by our national anthem. Bring us together as Gambians. And Mr. President, stop inviting tribes at the State House. Invite groupings of teachers. Invite groupings of nurses. You want to fix the country. Don't worry about fans club or anything. Call the teachers. They're at ground zero, dealing with classrooms with roofs that are leaking, dealing with classrooms without adequate material. Call them, let them tell you their ailment. Call the nurses from our referral hospitals and health centers. They'll tell you about their predicament. Call the firemen, the drivers of the ambulances. Let them tell you what their problems are. If you're doing that on a daily basis, hourly basis at the State House, I don't have a problem people knocking your door every day. But I sure do have a problem with group of opportunistic Gambians coming your way at taxpayer time, at taxpayer resource, trying to talk to you, because they're not talking to you for the interest of the greater good. And the greater good are telling you that we want you to talk to teaching bodies. We want you to talk to law enforcing bodies. We want you to talk to prison guards, immigration officers. If you're talking to those groups, I'll clap for you every day, Mr. President, because those people are yearning for a voice to show you why their work is not being done properly. The police who is at a checkpoint at night trying to do a job, and they're ill-equipped to know whether a driver that they stop is drunk or not, because they don't have a simple testing kit that's costing less than $30. That's the police you need to invite. Let them talk to you. Then you will see why our money should go where it ought to go. You need help, Mr. President. But the help you need is not coming from that circle close to you. You are helping them, because you're giving them a comfy and a cushy lifestyle. Hence the people trying to repost some of the garbage that's out there on your page on a daily basis. Mr. President, ñi la bugga dëgga dañ la sori, ñi la jege dëgga bagaas lañ la gisee and njëriñ lañ gis ci yow. Ku gis njëriñ ci yow nag woy sa tur woy sa maam. And that's the people you need to avoid. They don't love you. They love the comforts that comes with the proximity to power. Mr. President, the sooner you understand this, you can salvage what is left of your term, and you will build a great legacy for yourself, and all is not lost. I always tell people, it's never too late. It's never too late, Mr. President, to make a U-turn. And the U-turn is for you to come to what you call proximity politics. Proximity politics is you getting close or closer to the people. And when I say people, I'm not talking about the people that are being bossed and put in gele-geles to come and see you, but the other way around. You, on your own volition, without plans, going out. What's stopping Mr. President from going and visiting just a house at Perseverance Street, or a house at Bunukakuna, or a house at the Kotu Kware, just to find how that average Gambian lives? Mr. President, as soon as you start thinking like that, your fortunes will turn around. But today, there is what you call capture of the presidency. When I say capture of the presidency, there are few men and women who have captured you, the office of the president, not His Excellency, the individual, but the office of the president has been captured by few people who have commoditized your office instead of helping you fulfill your mandate to the people as per the promises made when people voted you in. Gambia came out of a distressed time when we voted Jammeh out. So we were not looking for the best amongst us. We were looking for anyone to give us a breath of fresh air. And that's why you were darling Adama Barrow. You were the darling of the Gambian. And Mr. President, retract your steps a little bit and find that person that was the darling of the people to emerge again. It's not late and it's not lost. You can do it. But doing it starts with cleaning your house, cleaning your cabinet, cleaning your environment, settle. Get people who are willing to tell you things you don't want to hear, but at a later date in your life, Nati, what's up? At a later date in your life, you will be pleased that people looked at you in the eye and said, Mr. President, Nila Dufele, you need it. A lot of people you have today, they have turned themselves to glorified griots instead of glorified advisors and servants for your presidency. And mind you, the historians have their pens and they're going to write a lot of paragraphs, and you want these paragraphs to be golden. You want these paragraphs to be something that will leave a legacy, that will be remembered for the right thing. But Mr. President, that will only happen when the right things are done today. All of Njie, they state, jamono, kuko feke warsa def lu baax, ndaxte lu aay sa gannaaw la. Mr. President, a term is so short. It may be 5 years, but before you know it, it's finished. So make the most of it. And making the most of it is to be a proximity president. A proximity president is a president who is not only in tune, but close to the very people who gave him a mandate. And the only way you can be close to the very people who gave you a mandate is to take those gatekeepers you have. You have gatekeepers. All of Njie once again saying, ne bur ayut, bur bonut, dagam ya ñoo ay. Mr. President, they're ring fencing you. And this ring fence is detaching you from your constituent, the Gambian. Take your rightful place. Take your mantle. Be president. And being the people's president starts with you dealing with the people directly, not via proxy. Because your proxies, they're not interested in nothing but their self-preservation, and that is not to your interest. People, be your own man. Do your own thing. Manifest your destiny. Take it and put it in your hand. At the end of the day, it's your term. It's no one else's term. So the people you think are helping, trust me, they have been your problem since December 2nd, 2016. Start being your own and doing your own and controlling your own. If you do, I think your fortunes will start changing. And Mr. President, one thing I want to tell you. Gambians are not bad people. Gambians are forgiving people. And oftentimes people make mistakes. And great leaders of this world own up to their mistakes and make a turnaround. And we are people who easily forget, because if not so, Asana Sabali would not have come to the Gambia and be talking to us and we listen. And Edward Singate would not have come back to the Gambia and we listen. And many others, the Mr. Jatta that was at the soldier Jatta that was at the TRRC. So please, Mr. President, reset the button, reset. I want to give you free advice. I'm not interested in any position in your government, but you need to clean your house, starting with your vice president. Get a vice president that will shadow you, meaning they walk behind your shadow. Number one. Get a vice president that will complement you. How? The things that you aspire, dream for the country, they do it for you. You don't need a vice president that's a praise singer. You don't need a vice president that tells you what you want to hear. You need a vice president that becomes a confidant to advise you appropriately and adequately to serve the people that you love, the Gambian. Then your cabinet, clean house. We're talking about budget 2020. Gambia has been growing the budget when our tax base hasn't grown in the same direction as our budget. What does that mean? We need to scale down. You should get someone who is going to scale down government for you. This year's budget should be less than last year's budget if we are being realistic on the times that Gambia and Gambians are living today, November 2019. Therefore, our 2020 budget should be less than our 2019 budget. The moment 2020 budget is one butut more than our 2019 budget, it means we are not scaling down. It means we are not being realistic to the times we are living. So, Mr. President, get a team that will tell you, we don't. But let's not only accept it, let's look for solutions. And oftentimes I hear that people like me, the John critics, we highlight issues and we don't give solutions. Well, Mr. President, I think we offer solutions, but our solutions turn to deaf ear because it's not what people want. Our solutions are bitter most of the time, and this country of ours, collectively, the people, including the politicians and the technocrats, we all collectively need to swallow a bitter pill, and that bitter pill is called reform. And reform is not only about laws, it's about attitudes, it's about repositioning, it's about reorientation. And if we're to do that, it comes with a sacrifice. Mr. President, another thing I want to remind you, you hardly go out, but we live on the streets, or in the streets rather. The CDS need to stop his convoy. It doesn't tell well. And it falls back on you, not him. Because the anger people have when they see the CDS and his convoy reverts back to you and your presidency, and that is not fair. You need to, I don't know whether you are told or not, but the CDS's convoy is a traffic nuisance. And I will tell you why it's a nuisance. 5:30, 5:45, everyone is thinking of home, hungry from work. Cars are moving at a snail pace from the Independence Stadium all the way to the Burusudi roundabout. And all of a sudden, there comes a convoy. People leave the road and this person just moves and goes. It becomes an animal farm where some animals are more equal than others. That's not the Gambia we want. You, Mr. President, deserves a convoy because out of 2 million people, we chose you. So we will honor you with a convoy. The dead in a funeral procession deserves a convoy or for people to leave the road for them. An ambulance deserves us to leave the road for them. A national dignitary coming to visit the Gambia deserves a convoy for us to show them Gambian hospitality. Maybe the vice president, irrespective of who holds the position, deserves a sweeper. Other than that, Mr. President, no one must have a sweeper on the road. Mind you, Mr. President, all of you are public servants. None of you can be more Christian than the Pope. But even the Pope has some archbishops that they give special considerations to. So we, at the Pope, we have given you a special consideration to enjoy the privileges and perks that come with your office. But people should not try and mimic you. What the CDS does on our roads is a mimic of supremacy. And we, the Gambians, detest such behavior. And I hope you can help put an end to it. Like Fannie Lou Hammer once said, we are sick and tired of being sick and tired of seeing those convoys on the road whilst every Gambian is trying to get home, just like Mr. CDS is trying to get home. And besides, he is sending a wrong signal that the country is not safe. Because if he thinks he needs protection to the point he needs a convoy, the message I'm getting is all is not well, and all is well. He should be able to blend in traffic and head home like Joe Gambian, like Samba Banjul, like Usman Dankunku. He is just the next Gambian. There is nothing special about the rank of a CDS. Long and short, he is a public servant. And a public servant serves the people. And that's why I said the CDS cannot be more Christian than the Pope. We are the Pope, we the people. So what we don't enjoy on our roads, he should not enjoy on our roads. Plain, simple. But we need your help, Mr. President. And the help we need is to sanitize our public environment. There's been a lot of abuse as it relates to the use of public office. Early morning, people going to work, you will see GGs forming a third lane off the road, overtaking to go to work. What signal are they sending us? They are important. We, the people who are paying for those Pajeros they're riding, paying for the fuel, paying for the driver, are not important. That must stop, but only with your help, Mr. President. Oftentimes, I think a lot of things that are directed to you are directed because of the inactions, meaning stopping the things that are happening. If this convoy stops, we will all be happy and we will all clap for you. And that's what we want, Mr. President. We want these convoys to stop because it's enraging us, it's infuriating us, it's making us feel less of ourselves. When your convoy passes, Mr. President, we will respectfully get off the road and let you go. The Vice President will do the same. That's the cutoff mark we want as Gambians. And please, helping us starts with fixing that nuisance of a convoy. Early in the morning, late in the evening. We all live in an urban area that has its developmental shortcomings. And no one should be given a privilege when others are suffering. Let us all suffer together. Maybe that will even make them understand what the average Gambian goes through using the road every day. But if they just come on a sweep, they will feel like everything is rosy because they didn't have challenges using the road. Your people who are working for you should suffer just like us. So when they come to you, they can relate to us and they will pass you a message that will help in the rebuilding of this country. If not, I will say they're insulated, they're detached, and worse off, they're disconnected with the Gambian reality. And this has been our problem. Most of the people advising you are disconnected with the realities of the average Gambian. So therefore they cannot advise you properly because they have insulated themselves from mainstream. But Mr. President, just wanted a few words, and let's make Gambia great. Let's make what's left of your term to be meaningful, impactful, and rejuvenating for the country we love and we think you love. All is not lost. Politics is one thing. I don't have an issue with your politics. That's your choice, Mr. President. My issue is my expectations of your presidency for me is to change my country. Yes, there are things that are happening that are positive, but in as much as they're happening, there are things that we want to see that we are not seeing. There are practices of the old, reminiscent of Njie, that we didn't want to see. You look at this leaked document, whether it's a draft, it's a proposal, just the mere fact that someone in public office, paid for by the taxpayer, have the time to draft a draconian piece of legislation that is going to abrogate the rights of the Gambian, take power away from the Gambian, is tolerated. That alone is an insult to the Gambian. We're not even saying that the law will be passed or not. The mere fact that someone in their right mind, like the document said in its description of what is a sound and sane mind, any public servant with a sound and sane mind, their right such a clause to make insults illegal is not only draconian but repressive. It's not only repressive but insulting to what we fought for. I know today, if Gambians were mindful, if Gambians were observant, they would have heard a tremor on the ground, because Solo Sandeng is turning around in his grave to say, how dare you, Ministry of Justice, come up with such a clause to criminalize Gambians once again after I have poured my blood for this country. What a shame. What a shame to whoever drafted that clause to criminalize Gambians once again. Once again, like I say, today there was an earthquake in the Gambia because the likes of Solo Sandeng and Femi Peters were turning in their graves after hearing of that clause that tried to criminalize the Gambian once again. Please, you guys must feel sorry for us for what we have gone through. 24 years of brutal dictatorship must not be punctuated by criminalizing Gambians once again. It must be punctuated by expanding the democratic space, by expanding the right to self-expression, by expanding the marketplace of ideas where Gambians try and have a healthy discourse. Once again, the problem of insults is not a problem of law, it's a problem of morality. And the Gambian is morally bankrupt because our religious leaders that should teach us right and wrong are morally bankrupt. Our social and community leaders are equally morally bankrupt because of poverty. They have lost the dignity in them. So what I expect us to do collectively is to rebuild a new Gambian, and that Gambian will have pride, will have dignity, and in dignity we will know that insulting people is wrong. Law is not going to change our moral stand. Our moral stand is going to change with our mindset, our conscience. That is what's going to change the Gambian. And that is not done in a courtroom. It's done in homes, in churches, in mosques, in schools, and within the community. These are the things that will stop the insults. But then again, like I said, if you look at Gambian social media space today, you see a sick society. You look at Gambian social media space, you see a decadent society. You look at Gambian social media space, you see a disrespectful society and a rebellious society that is not based on any logic but pure anger. Where is that anger coming from? One, it's coming out because of a poor social contract. Too many have-nots and few haves. That in itself has created a problem of envy, a problem of jealousy, and a problem of despair, where people just hate people for who they think these people are. So when you write an article on social media, people will not respond to the article. They will attack you, the writer, the messenger, not the message. That shows that our society, our community is sick at heart. And our sickness is because of social inequality. Therefore, the Gambia for the longest time had what you call a poor social contract. And it's the responsibility of government to try and realign the inequalities of the past. There is no society in the world where everyone and everything is equal. But the government must try to bring people up, and it comes through empowerment, enlightenment, education, and opportunities. Mr. President, that's the direction the government needs to take, rather than criminalizing people who insult. What the government is doing today is not looking at the cause, but trying to find a remedial action. But the remedial action is counterproductive, because the Gambian that is insulting will continue to be the Gambian that is insulting unless and until there is a reorientation of the mind and reconfiguration of our society. And that will only happen when the government takes a deliberate action to say, we are going to change the social dynamics of our country. In statistics, we call it a Gini coefficient, meaning inequality. If you take Gambia as a bell curve, you have 7% of the Gambians living in the middle, high, or in the fringes, sorry. Then you have 93% all living in the middle with despair, lack of opportunity, lack of good access to healthcare, lack of education. And these things have been structural. It's been here for over 54 years. So it's not a problem of just you, Adama Barrow. It's not a problem of just Yaya Jammeh. But Yaya Jammeh has helped amplify the voice of the voiceless to the point they have seen the people who are trying to be successful as the problems of this country. And that has translated to social media for the despair that people have against certain segments of society, for the anger they have against certain segments of society. And the government must start changing and rebuilding, it can only happen through giving them opportunities. It will only happen through changing their fortunes. I looked at people who insult me on social media. Case in point, last week, some too good for nothing, and they're all fake profiles because they lack the courage of conviction to come out with their names because they are ashamed of what they're doing. But I understand the frustration inherent in them. You look at the guy called or animal call or whatever, Ajamat. When I spoke about Yaya Jammeh, he took it personally because he saw Yaya Jammeh as a passport out of their misfortunes. And anyone who speaks against Yaya Jammeh was speaking against their social upward mobility. Oh no, Yaya Jammeh never cared about Ajamat's social upward mobility. Yaya Jammeh used the poor, the vulnerable in our society to pitch them against another segment of society. So we never had time for them, for him. Rather, it became us and them, and he chose to side with the poor and vulnerable groups of our society, thereby creating a narrative where he was never the issue, but he was the savior. Yaya Jammeh is no longer here, but that mindset is still here. And that's why we need leaders who can deconstruct that minds that have been polluted and poisoned. Because you look at the social media space, that is very prevalent. Gambians who just hate for hate's sake. They don't hate you because you've done something to them or their families. It's all about image and representation. And trust me, most of us love this country. And we are indifferent whether it's a Yaya Jammeh or an Adama Barrow. We want a better Gambia for all. And if Gambia is better for me and it's not better for the 97% of Gambians, I will not enjoy whatever I work hard for, because crime will be on the rise, envy will be on the rise, and I cannot be out on the street. And I don't want to be a prisoner in my own country. Therefore, it's the responsibility of government to change the current social contract that we have. Make sure that the have-nots have better opportunities. Make sure that the have-nots have better social upward mobility instruments to better their lives. That's what I expect from an Adama Barrow, rather than going around the country talking. Let's make Gambia great, and making Gambia great starts with our political leaders showing us the direction. Our political leaders doing right. CJ, you're on board. Our political leaders doing what's right for country. Bayi ken momu dekabi. No one is privileged or entitled. And this sense of entitlement needs to cease. But equally, the political class, especially the ruling class, need to show us better examples. The ruling class in this country need to show us better examples. And Gambia, Mr. President, is a ticking time bomb if you understand statistics. 61% of your population are youth, and no more than 30% of them are gainfully employed. Therefore, underemployment and unemployment is a problem. And I think if your advisors are smart enough, they will see the catalyst of the anger when Yankuba tourist issue came out. The amount of time it took to mobilize the whole greater Banjul. When the Gorgimbub issue happened, that limited time it took for it to happen. And Mr. President, I want to tell you that we need to liberalize this economy and liberalize the mindset of the Gambian to give them economic opportunities. Mr. President, why should Gambia not cultivate and farm hemp and marijuana for exports? Ethiopia is doing it. Tanzania is doing it, and many other countries are doing it. And guess what? Gambia is missing out, all because of stupidity, because of tradition. And Mr. President, the tradition we are upholding against marijuana, mind you, the people who are against it don't know why we had it. It had nothing to do with our culture, Mr. President. It has everything to do with a colonial law that was protecting the interest of the tobacco companies. I am not telling you, Mr. President, to legalize marijuana for us to smoke. I am telling you, let's grow it and export it and fight poverty, Mr. President. I think these are some of the things we want to see. A liberal Gambia, a liberal mindset, and an open Gambia to open the economic space. Marijuana is something that will change the poverty dynamics, because today, a farmer growing marijuana, if he cultivates 1 ton of good marijuana, it's like cultivating 4,000 tons of peanuts. 4,000 tons. 1 ton of marijuana equals to 4,000 tons in value. Why do you want these old farmers in up country to keep on breaking their backs for nothing? Peanuts has been peanuts. Let's change our cash crop. Let's make Gambian farming dignified, so that a Gambian farmer will not be a beggar, but a farmer who can take his kids to a college, to a university, not only in the Gambia, but outside of the Gambia. A farmer who will farm and take himself to Mecca, Mr. President, is doable in my lifetime, in your lifetime, and even in your term. Let's legalize marijuana, not because of people smoking it. Let's legalize it and make sure that the Gambian farmer makes money growing medicinal marijuana for exports. Mr. President, to be honest, if you have liberal advisors, there are things you can do to turn around this economy. If you have liberal advisors, there are things you can do to make Gambia great. If you have liberal advisors, there are things you can do to gainfully engage the Gambian youth so that they will have things to do and have a better life. The youth folk of this country are in destitute and despair, not because Gambia cannot provide for them. It's because people who should think for you are not thinking. Mr. President, today, if you and I beg you to go and visit Radville Farms along the Combo Coastal Road. Please visit Radville Farms and ask them how many tons of fresh produce they're exporting to England on a weekly basis, and is ending up in Tesco's, in the Carrefours and other supermarkets. I'm not even talking about the mangoes, because those are seasonal. I'm talking about fresh organic produce coming out of Gambia into UK by a farm owned by Rohit Shah, an Indian who is making millions of pounds. What's stopping our agriculture ministry to open 15, 20 commercial farms in the West region to grow organic produce for exports? And these young kids, 60 of them in each commercial farm, can make up to $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Mr. President, it's possible. You need people who think and think out of the box and dare to tell you things you may not like to hear, like medicinal marijuana for exports. Mr. President, the taboo is the problem of this country, and we can only stop if we start thinking with our colonial hats. We are freed people. There are no chains on our necks. Why should we allow chains in our heads, Mr. President? Gambia first. And when we say Gambia first, how we do it, it's irrelevant and inconsequential. Let us do it. Gambia should not be donor-driven, whereby donors give us or we don't eat. Mr. President, Budget 2020 is here. I expect you to tell your Minister of Finance that in his speech at the House, you should make a pledge that by 2027, Gambia should rid itself from budget support from donors, meaning we will live within our means as a people. That gives us dignity. And when we have dignity, we control our narrative. When we control our narrative, we say to hell with World Bank, to hell with the IMF, to hell with anybody, because we manifest our destiny and we control the direction we want to take. Countries are doing it. Ghana is on the verge. Rwanda today is over 97% funded locally. We can do it if we curtail our expenditure to meet what we can afford as a people. It's very undignified to receive handouts. I don't want a handout. The white man that's giving me a handout is no more dignified than me. But my dignity is not being robbed by the white man. It's being robbed by my very government who is begging on my behalf. And that's what I want to stop. And Mr. President, the issue of Gambians traveling. The issue of Gambians traveling. Today as a country, I don't think we have any issuing embassy for a Schengen visa in the Gambia. People have to go outside of the country to get a stamp, number one. Number two, Mr. President, I believe your foreign minister must take an issue with the United Kingdom Home Office. Why? Why should a Gambian pay £1,000 to get a visa to go to England? I expect the Home Office and the embassy to collect the administrative fees inherent in getting a visa, but the administrative fee of getting a visa is no more than £60 per transaction, number one. Number two, allow people to pay the administrative costs of transacting. If you decide to give them a visa, you put a fee, then they pay. If you don't decide to give them a visa as a country, it stops at them losing the flat fee of the administrative cost. I expect the Minister of Foreign Affairs to get up and do that, because they are the ones who should look for the interests of the country. And Gambians have been prostituted by these embassies because they're milking money and giving no more than 5% of applicants. That is highway robbery and broad day robbery, but it's happening because our government is condoning it. It must stop. And it stops by the government saying no to it. Let us all stay here. Let us not have visas. But let it be on a basis that gives the Gambian a dignity. Don't, as a government, allow the citizens of this country's dignity to be robbed. Where people go and transact visas, they line outside the streets on the hot sun. That's not dignity. That's not dignity. Let's try and give our people dignity. And giving our people dignity starts with telling our partners. And that's why we need to stop the begging. Because if I give you, I control you. If I don't give you, I cannot control you. Then it means we're having a conversation of equal partners. But today our conversation is not of equal partners because we are net receivers. Let's live within our means. So when we talk to a US, we talk to an England, we talk to a France, we talk as dignified Gambians, not beggars. We are not beggars. Our grandparents were highly dignified people. So let us go back to that, and let's make sure that we, the people of this country, are proud and tall. And being proud and tall means we don't beg. It's us, me, you, who decry the Gambians or beggars we see at the traffic light. We detest it. Every day we are angry. Why are these police officers leaving these beggars at the traffic light? It's the same thing we do as a country. We are begging every day. So for crying out loud, people are angry at us. The very way me and you are angry seeing beggars at the traffic light is the same way Other people are angry at African nations, particularly us, the Gambia, because I'm talking about the Gambian context, going out there begging. Think of yourself, think of me, when we see beggars at traffic light, how we feel. We detest it. We hate it. So when we walk to the corridors of powers, be it the Congress, the White House, Westminster, it's the same way those white people see us. They detest what we do, going out there as beggars. Let us stop that. Let us stop that nonsense. And stopping that nonsense start with us having dignity. When you have dignity, you don't take handouts. And not taking handouts is the beginning of building a Gambian with a character. Because when dignity is robbed of you, you're as good as an animal. You don't have conscience anymore. It's the dignity we need to rebuild in a Gambian. And if we build that dignity, dignified people don't insult each other. They have a marketplace of ideas where they battle ideas, and the best amongst our ideas rise, hail, and become the norm, the law, and the prevailing going thing. But today we insult each other because our dignity has been robbed by the brutal butcher called Yaya Jammeh. That was the way he spoke to us. He spoke to us not only with force, but with undue disregard for our humanity. So our Minister of Justice must not follow the footsteps of Jammeh by coming up with draconian laws. They should try and empower the people. And empowering the Gambian is reorienting the Gambian, retooling the Gambian, re-kitting the Gambian, and re-teaching the Gambian to know what good norms of society are. And once we do that, most of the problem we see on Facebook will dissipate. It will be a thing of the past. So having a law to criminalize people who are already doing things that they know not to do, you're not helping. It's like talking to a deaf man. So please, let's stop that. Because if not, that law will become pay as you go. People will insult, you find them, they pay, and keep on insulting. But if you reorient and retool and re-educate the Gambian to know right and wrong, they will know that insulting each other and each other's parents is not helping this country. On that note, I just want to say a big thank you for people who took their time to just listen to me ramble. But sometimes I'm frustrated like any other Gambian. Sometimes I feel like we've been railroaded. Sometimes I feel like our agenda collectively as Gambians have been hijacked. And I always tell people, my generation, the people who were 18, 19, 20 when Yaya Jammeh came, I call them the arrested development, because that's the critical time of our lives when we should have blossomed as a flower, start making our names and giving to our society. Jammeh took 23, 24 years of our productive life. So people like me are trying to play catch up for lost time. And in playing catch up, we need the government to help us so that what is left of our useful life, we will have gainful use for it. But if we want to continue where Yaya Jammeh left us, you will make us a doomed generation. And Gambia would have lost a whole generation of Gambians to nothing. So help us salvage what is left of our generation, so that we will be able to pass on a better Gambia to the next generation, because our grandfathers gave us a better Gambia than the Gambia we want to pass on to the younger generation of Gambians. So it's the leadership who should help us help our country. And on that note, God bless Gambia. I love Gambia. I love every Gambian, and even the ones that hate me, I love them because we share the same boat. If that boat sinks, I sink. If you suffer, I suffer. Because of that, we should be our brothers and sisters keepers. And I urge all of us to look at our national anthem, not only read it line by line and try and understand it line by line. You will then love your brothers and sisters. For the Gambia, we will ever be true. for the Gambia, we should do everything humanly possible to make sure that this small country of ours will be counted in the League of Nations as one of those nations who have done well for its people. Thank you, Gambia. God bless.